daanan with this course. So, the first meeting, let me. Okay, for the first meeting, what we have done is I gave you the task as well as we discussed the introduction for what is STS and what will be or ano yung ating expected, okay, na all throughout with this course. Also, pagdating naman sa second meeting, nagkaroon na tayo ng unang debate topic, which is, do we live on flat earth? And also, during that meeting, napag-usapan din naman natin yung science and technology and the Philippine nation building. For the third meeting, which is debate number 2, napag-usapan naman natin dyan yung good life as well as the debate topic number 2 ay, are we brain in a bat? Okay, and then if I recall correctly, hindi pa tayo nakakapag face to face, tama? Paki-react nga po ng heart. Okay. So that's why more likely next week tayo po ngayon ay magkakaroon na ng face to face class. Okay, nasa cycle nyo ba yun? Yun pala yung unang tanong, no? Nasa cycle nyo po ba ang next week na mag face to face? Sino ba ang pwedeng maging speaker? Yes, Annalise?
Hello po. Next week po, meron po kaming departmentals ng Wednesday po.
Pero si departmentals, siya ay anong oras?
If I'm not mistaken po, 12 to 2. May klase po ba before that?
Okay. So kung 12 to 2 si departmentals, so pwede tayo magklase ng 8 to 10:30. Mag-meet na tayo. Okay? Since pupunta naman din kayo ng SEA, edi might as well, gamitin na natin yung time na yun para makapag-meet. And si departmentals, wala naman siyang excuse letter, tama? Miss Annalise?
We're not sure po. Kasi nung nagka-meeting po, sabi po nila bibigyan daw po nila kami ng excuse letter for pero baka po sa maapektuhan lang po na classes yun.
I see, I see. Pero follow up mo na lang natin clarify para mas malinaw sa ating lahat. Pero kung wala namang mabibigay na excuse letter, might as well, we will continue with our first face-to-face na meeting. Okay, so pakilalagay ko lang, no? Tentative. That is November 13. Okay, meron ba itong classroom? May classroom ba na binibigay sa inyo? Or kumbaga homeroom na lagi kayong doon nagkaklase? Okay, pero okay. If paki-check na lang din, no, Miss Annalise, kung anong classroom ang available that day. And dapat yan may naka-schedule tayo na classroom. And then, kailangan natin manghiram ng projector as well as kailangan natin mag-provide ng HDMI cord. Okay, so I believe nakapaggawa naman na kayo ng face-to-face, so might as well alam nyo na rin yan. Okay, also, paano ko ba ito i-share? Yan. Also, sa ating topic number 10, since nakalagay dito ay to be announced, kaya ang gagawin natin ay hindi na siya Team A, Team B, or Team C. Ang ilalagay natin dito ay yung mga nag-MVP sa ating debates. Okay? Sila-sila ngayon yung ating ilalagay dyan. Then, siguro pwedeng pag-usapan na lang kung sino yung magiging proponents with this topic number 10. Okay? Kasi ilang MVP to, no? 1, 2, 9. So, hatiin na lang natin for each group. And then yung isa, hindi na natin isasali. Okay? Tapos, ito po ay face-to-face and then hindi na to graded. We just want to enjoy watching them, okay, doing this debate. The topic number 10 is anthropic principle. Do we live in fine-tuned universe? Just to give some preview, ang sinasabi nitong concept na to ay existence of God. Okay, ganun siya. Kasi, kumbaga, perfectly yung pagkakabuild sa universe na one small deviation, let's say sa gravitational pull or gravitational constant G, may magbago lang doon kahit small amount, ay hindi na mag-e-exist si universe. Magkakagulo-gulo na. Okay? Yan yung sinasabi nung anthropic principle. Okay? So medyo maganda rin siya kaya bagay siya sa mga MVPs eh. Kasi alam natin magagaling silang mag-talk, okay? Convincing sila, etc. For today, dapat ang ating okay, so as I was saying, today dapat ang ating lecture topic is when the science and technology and humanity cross. Pero ang ating debate topic for today is justified true belief. Okay, which is, for me, personally, hindi siya ganun ka-inline. So, we will reserve the topic number 4 or the topic na humanity and science, okay, yung crossover nila, pagdating sa next week, sa face-to-face na lang. Kasi for next week, for debate topic number 4, ang topic is the scientific method, can science explain morality? Okay, so i-reserve na lang natin yan doon. Which means today, didiretso muna tayo sa theory topic as well as sa debate na muna. Okay, so with that, may I call the presenters for the theory topic? Please raise your hand. Si Team A. Okay, we have Giancarlo. Gian, can you open your mic?
Sir, hello po. Good morning po.
Okay, good morning. How about you, Alexander?
Sir, rinig po ba, sir?
Ayan,
Good morning
narinig.
po.
Okay, good morning. And then lastly, we have Clarence Jed.
Good morning po.
Okay, good morning,
Edible
Clarence.
po ba? Audible po.
Yes, audible naman. Okay, so the presenters should discuss the topic, the theory topic about knowledge and belief. Okay, so without further ado, since gumagana naman po yung mic, pwede na po kayo mag-share screen and you may start your presentation.
Okay, good morning everyone. I hope nagising na po kayong lahat at ready na po kayo makinig sa aming discussion. Para po may sagot tayo sa quiz mamaya, okay? Next slide po. So tawag nito, ang itatakal po natin na topic ngayon ay itong mga to, no? Knowledge, belief, tapos ayun. Sana may maintindihan kayo sa lesson namin ngayong umaga. So, what is knowledge, ano? Okay, next slide po. Knowledge is a history of thesis and theories, but no less of questions, concept, distinction, syntheses, and taxonomies. They generate and refine philosophical theses and theories on the fundamentally understandable parts of nature. So, knowledge isn't just facts or theories, no? It is also about the methods and tools the philosophers use to understand the world. Okay, next slide po. Knowledge by philosophers. So there are some philosophers that have their take in about knowledge. Okay. Pabalik po. Ayan. Philosophers have advanced knowledge through works on forms, metaphysics, and ethics. Descartes introduced radical doubt, while Kant created a framework distinguishing phenomena from noumena. Hegel combined history and logic, and Wittgenstein examined the limits of language, ano? So, ang take dito ni Descartes, ang sabi niya, uh, known for radical doubt. So, method of doubting everything to find absolute truth, yun ang sabi niya. So, si Descartes, siya yung philosopher na nag-state ng I think, siya yung famously uh, philosopher na nag-state ng I think, therefore I am, no? Ang take naman ni Kant dito, uh, created a framework distinguishing phenomena from noumena, no? She distinguished between phenomena or yung things as we experience them. And yung noumena naman, things as they are in themselves, no? So influencing how we view perception of reality. While Kant naman, Hegel naman pala, he combined history and logic, viewing history as a process that that develops human understanding. Okay, and next slide po. Examples like Aristotle's classification of living beings and focals analysis of power structures illustrates how philosophy has classified aspects of nature. Through questioning and critique, this tradition continues to deepen our understanding existence of freedom and social structures. No? So ang sabi naman ni Aristotle dito, classified living beings daw providing early taxonomies that influence biology and the study of life. Next po. So there are different kinds of knowledge, ano? And this knowledge is very important para maintindihan natin kung ano-ano ba talaga yon sila, kung ano yung relation nila sa isa't isa. Okay. Knowledge by acquaintance, no? Knowing a person involves interaction with him or her. Sabi ni Bertrand Russell, it distinguishes knowledge by acquaintance as immediate and unquestionable, no? Linking one with abstract properties and momentary sensory items. Ang knowledge by acquaintance, ito yung knowledge gained through direct experience or interaction. Sabi ni Bertrand Russell, he described it as immediate and unquestionable, no? Or a direct awareness of people, object, or sensory experiences. So for example, you know someone personally, no? Versus knowing about them through descriptions. No? So let's say for example, kilala natin si Sir. Kilala natin siya kasi nagpakilala siya sa atin, no? Versus makikilala lang natin si sir dahil nakwento lang siya or nabasa lang natin siya sa ano, sa mga chismis ng ibang tao, ganun. Sa ano, Facebook page, yun yan. So, next po, knowledge that. This is the knowledge that present whenever there is a knowledge of fact or truth. This has two forms, no? Propositional knowledge, tapos yung knowledge by description, no? Propositional knowledge, the kind that focus on facts or truths represented by declarative sentences. Knowledge by description naman is where the knowledge is expressed through description. But not all propositional knowledge involves description, ano? So, it involves factual statement. Like, for example, dirt orbits the sun, no? So, factual naman siya. Yung knowledge by description naman, no, you know something indirectly through descriptions without first-hand experience, no? For example, alam mo yung Paris. Alam mo kung ano yung itsura ng Paris. Alam mo kung ano yung ganda ng Paris kasi nabasa mo sa isang brochure, ganyan. Or napanood mo sa isang TikTok Reels or sa IG Reels, mga ganon. So, you experience it without first-hand experience. No? Kumbaga, wala ka doon physically. So, ang sabi dito, not all knowledge that involves descriptions is no. But not all propositional knowledge involves description pala, no. Not all knowledge that involves descriptions, it may simply be factual or propositional. Okay, next po. Knowledge na nag-start sa WH, no? So this involves questions like whether, who, why, what, and how. Traditional view is that this can be reduced to propositional knowledge. But contrastivism suggests that knowing something involves knowing it in contrast or to other possibilities. This is considered propositional knowledge but emphasizes comparative aspect of knowing. Okay, so this may also be called the interrogative knowledge, no? Kasi it involves questions like whether, who, why, what, and how, no? So this type can be reduced to propositional knowledge in the or yung knowledge that. So it can also be factual or descriptive, you know? Yun ang sabi. So contrastivism naman, ang ibig sabihin nito, it is an alternate view suggesting that knowing something involves understanding it in contrast to other possibilities. Like for example, knowing why something happened versus other possible explanations, no? So ayan, next slide po. Ito naman yung knowledge how. It may involve knowledge WH, but Gilbert Ryle distinguishes that it is more than just knowing facts, but also involves skills and abilities. Some argue that knowledge that is a form of knowledge how, implying knowledge is about skills and abilities, no? So, yung knowledge how, it is about knowing how to perform a task involving skills and abilities, no? Sabi, it can be deduced into knowledge, WH or yung interrogative knowledge, Pero, Gilbert Ryle argues that it is more than just factual knowledge. It's practical, involving competence, no? For example, you know how to ride a bike, no? Sabi ni Gilbert Ryle, it is more than just factual knowledge, it's practical, involving competence. So, sabi nito, hindi mo lang alam na marunong ka magbike, may skill ka para masabi na marunong ka magbike, no? So, ayan. Ang relation naman nito to knowledge that, some believe that knowledge that or yung factual knowledge is actually a form of knowledge how, as it implies skill and understanding beyond mere facts, no? Hindi mo lang naintindihan kung halimbawa, tinuruan kita kung paano mag-bike. Sabi ko sa'yo, ganito, ganito gawin mo, ganyan, ganyan. Yun. Pero wala kang skills para i-drive siya. Baga hindi mo siya magawa by skill. Parang ganun. As it implies skills nga and understanding. No? Yan. Okay, next. Mag-react po kayo ng heart kung naririnig niyo pa po ako kasi baka po nagsasalita lang po ako dito eh. Yun, thank you po. Makinig po kayong lahat kasi may pa-quiz po kami mamaya. Sobrang hirap po. Okay, next slide po. Okay, so there are different ways of knowing din. So kung may different kinds of knowledge, may iba't ibang ways din ng knowing. May iba't ibang paraan din ng pag-alam. Okay? So let's start with innate knowledge, no? So what is innate knowledge? Excuse me. Some knowledge is believed to be present from birth, like language or mathematical principles. For example, Chomsky, Chomsky and Plato's ideas. However, it's challenging to determine whether such knowledge is truly innate or learned easily. So, ang innate knowledge naman, ito yung knowledge na pinaniniwalaan na present from birth. Kumbaga, pinanganak ka na alam mo to, no? For example, ito yung pinaka dyan, famous na example para dito. Yung language acquisition, no? As argued by Noam Chomsky, no? And basically mathematical principles or yung kay Plato's idea of recollection. Okay, so ang sabi dito, philosophical debate na to. It's hard to determine na kung yung knowledge daw ba is truly innate or simply learned very early or very early or very and easily, no? Ang may example ko sa inyo dito ay yung alam niyo yung kwento na kwento ng Sameticos experiment. Yung may dalawang bata na pinalaki sila from isolation na walang influence ng any human language noon, no. So lumaki tong dalawang batang to ng ganun lang and wala silang language na naririnig or kahit ano, no. And then later on, nung lumaki yung dalawang bata, ang unang word na nabigkas nila ayon sa mga historian or sa mga nakasaksi noon ay yung word na bekos, no? Yung bekos na yun, siya, Phrygian word for bread. Yun. So, paano nila tawag nito? Paano nila nakamap yung ganung yung ganung tawag nito? Unang word na ibibigkas nila, no? Kung walang influence ng outside outside people na maririnig nila na sinasabi yung bekos noon. So it is kumbaga kumbaga para sa mga tao noon, hindi siya kapani-paniwala kasi nga ganun yung nangyari. And then meron ding nag-experiment na iba't ibang mga sikat na tao noon. Tulad na lang ng isang emperor na si Mughal Emperor Akbar. No, nung taong 1500s to. So ang theory niya kasi dito na-curious siya kung ano ba talaga yung unang lengguwahe ng mga tao. Kung ano ba talaga yung pinagmulan ng paano tayo nagkakaintindihan lahat. Sabi niya, naniniwala siya ng speech came from hearing, no? So, ang ginawa niya naman, he raised children without hearing human speech then to see if they would become mute o kung magiging pipe lang ba yung mga bata na to. Ang ginawa niya, yung mga bata na pinag-eksperimentuhan nila noon, yung mga bata pinag-eksperimentuhan para lang sa kaalaman ng lahat, no. Baka kailangan nila mag-sacrifice at a very young age agad. So pinalaki niya tong mga bata na to sa poder ng mga wet nurses. Kumbaga yung mga wet nurses, ito yung mga yung mga nagpapadede noon na na parang mga maid, parang mga ganun sila. Basta yun yung mga wet nurses. Papadede sila ng mga bata. Okay, and then ang naging outcome naman nun, kumbaga ang ambiguous ng outcome daw nun kasi in one version ng story, yung mga bata natuto lang sila ng sign language. Hindi sila natuto maggawa ng sarili nilang salita. So kumbaga ayun, baga magre-remain pa rin na baga mystery kung ano ba talaga yung pinagmulan, kung paano nakapag-come up ng unang lengguwahe yung mga tao. Okay, ayan. So hindi natin malalaman, no? Baga ang napaka-ambiguous ng knowledge na ganun. So, malay natin sa many years from now, no, ma-discover ng sino man 'yan or ma-discover ng kaklase natin kung ano ba talaga yung unang lengguwahe na binigkas ng lahat ng tao, ano. So napakatinding breakthrough nun sa human history. Kasi move on na tayo dun, dito naman tayo sa observational knowledge. So I hope na nakikinig pa kayong lahat, no. Mag-react po tayo ng heart kung nakikinig pa po. Ayan, thank you. Thank you po. Observational knowledge naman po tayo. This is the knowledge gained through sensory experiences, no? Philosophers questions whether pure observation can lead to foundational knowledge or if it requires conceptual understanding as well. So, this is the knowledge gained through sensory experience, no? So, yun yung seeing, hearing, touching, etc., no? Philosophical question dito, can pure observation daw lead to foundational knowledge or does it need conceptual understanding, no? Yun yung philosophical question. Sabi dito, kung ah, kung i-observe mo lang ba yung isang bagay, magli-lead ba daw ba yun sa foundational knowledge? Kumbaga, pag in-observe mo lang yung isang bagay, maintindihan mo na ba yun fully? Yun yung pinaka ano dito, question, no? Like for example, observing natural events like sunrise, no? It may require conceptual framers like understanding time to be meaningful. Siyempre, titignan mo lang yung sunrise, ano kaya nangyayari? Ba't ganito yung nangyayari? Lumulubog yung araw, sumisikat yung araw, no? Naintindihan mo lang na gano'n na maggagabi na, mag-uumaga na, no? It requires conceptual frameworks like understanding time, no? Baga, ayun, naintindihan na natin na ganito pala, maggagabi pala, mag-uumaga na. Yun, to be meaningful yung na-observe nating natural event. And knowledge by thinking, no? Knowledge by thinking, prior knowledge or knowledge gained purely through thought is explored. Rationalists argue for its possibility while empiricists claim all knowledge is observational. Philosophers debate if substantive prior knowledge is possible and whether it can be infallible na. So sorry sa mga mali-mali kong pagsalita guys tao lang din ako. Inaalam ko lang din kung ano nating knowledge. Kung ano natin language pala. Ayan. So ang definition nito, knowledge gained purely through thought now without relying on sensory experience. No. Kumbaga, ito lang yung knowledge gained purely through thought. Kumbaga naiisip lang natin. Without relying on sensory experience. Halimbawa, hindi natin narinig, hindi natin nabasa, hindi natin naamoy, ganun. No? Kumbaga naisip lang natin. No? Isipin niyo yun, mag-isip kayo ng bagay ng walang sensory experience na bago. No? Di ba parang ang sakit sa ulo, no? Pero kaya natin yan. Hindi lang sa ngayon. Mamaya, pagtapos ng meet natin, isipin natin yung ganong, mag-isip tayo ng ganong paraan. So, mag-think tayo in that way. Okay, so, ang view dito ng mga rationalists, no, they believe that some knowledge like logic or mathematics can be purely by thinking, no? Ayun debate ng mga rationalists. So, ay mga empiricists naman, sabi nila, all knowledge must come from sensory experience daw. Purely thought-based knowledge is not possible. Sabi nila, yun yung sabi nila. Hindi daw posible yung purely thought-based, no? Kasi, wag na, pati tuloy ako napapaisip na ang sabi ng mga rationalist, sabi nila, like, yung logic or yung mathematics can be purely by thinking, no? Kumbaga, iniisip lang ng tao. Kumbaga, pwede kang makadiscover ng Kumbaga puwede kang makapag-come up ng isang problem 'no, by purely thinking lang. Kumbaga gagawa-gawa ka ng sarili mong problema parang gano'n daw, sabi ng mga rationalist. Mga empiricist naman, kumbaga kina-counter naman nila yung mga rationalist by saying purely thought-based knowledge is not possible 'no. Kasi all knowledge must come from sensory experiences daw. Yun ang sabi nila. Nag-aaway-away na sila diyan. Okey, so yun yung naging debate nila 'no. They question if a prior knowledge can be substantive or giving us real information and whether it is infallible 'no. So ang ibig sabihin nun kung, kumbaga prone ba yan sa, error 'no. So siyempre as humans prone tayo sa maraming error 'no. Kaya ayun. And next po, knowledge by thinking and observing. Ito naman yung pinaghalo na siya. Knowledge by thinking with observing na. This mixed approach suggests that combining observation with reasoning might overcome the limitations of each. However, some argue that combining them may also magnify their weakness. Okay. It is a combined approach where observation is supplemented by reasoning to gain knowledge, no? May reasoning kung bakit ganun yung observation na nagawa natin. Tulad ng pag-experiment natin sa laboratory, mga ganyan. Dine-determine natin kung paano nangyayari 'tong ganito, paano tayo nakapag-come up with this, answer with this solution, ganyan. Ang advantage daw nito, mixing observation and thought may overcome the limitations of each 'no, providing a fuller understanding. And sabi din dito, it can also magnify their weakness 'no, yun yung challenges dito. Some may argue that blending thinking and observation may also magnify the limitations of each. Okay, next slide po. And understanding knowledge and standards of knowledge naman tayo. So may standards din yung knowledge. Hindi i-understand natin yung knowledge ngayong umaga. Understanding knowledge 'no. Understanding philosophical phenomena, one method involves analyzing a phenomenon in terms of other phenomena, aiming for a precise and exhaustive understanding. This is called analytic reduction and has been a dominant approach in epistemology for the past 50 years now. Yung, tawag dito? Okay. Yung analytic reduction, it is a method of breaking down complex ideas into simpler components, to achieve precise or detailed understanding. Kumbaga ito yung pagbe-breakdown natin ng mga complex ideas ano. Like for example, yun nga, pagsikat ng araw 'no. Umaangat yung araw, lumulubog yung araw, nagiging umaga, nagiging gabi. Tapos nagkakaroon tayo ng mga nakamap natin yung 24-hour cycle 'no. Parang gano'n. Kumbaga nagre-reduce na ng gano'n, pababa-baba, naging seconds, ganyan. Tapos nagkaroon tayo ng, umaga, tanghali, hapon, gabi, madaling araw, ganyan. And ginagawa lang natin 'yan. Okay, this approach has dominated epistemology 'no. Yung epistemology alam naman natin ito yung study of knowledge 'no, for the past 50 years. Kumbaga, ito yung naging dominant approach 'no, sa pagtuklas natin ng kung ano-anong bagay na iniimbento-imbento natin para maintindihan natin fully. Focusing on achieving, clarity 'no and specificity in understanding our philosophical ideas, gano'n. And next po, standards of knowledge naman tayo. Definition nito, knowledge may be treated as questions about standards. We expect knowledge to amount to something, to be an improvement in some respect upon various forms of non-knowledge. It may consider a wider range of possible standards, beginning with infallibility, which have at times been placed by epistemologists and others upon knowing. So standards of knowledge it refers to the criteria that knowledge must meet to be considered valid or reliable, no? So dapat daw reliable yung knowledge na alam natin. Sabi, dapat baga ito yung standard of knowledge ito, baga meron tayong standard or may valid criteria tayo para masabi na quality yung knowledge na meron tayo, no? Ang purpose nito it is to help distinguish true knowledge from opinion or belief, no? So ayun. Hindi naman pwede na kapag may alam tayong isang bagay, no? Hindi natin siya pwede sabihin na hindi hindi hin- hindi pwede natin masabi pala na yun na talaga yun. Kumbaga factual na talaga yun, no? Malay natin opinion lang yun ng isang tao, no? Kaya tayo may standards of knowledge, no? Kumbaga ito yung ah nagko-consider kung valid ba talaga yung knowledge na yun, no? They ensure that knowledge is more than just speculation, making it a reliable foundation, no, for further inquiry. So ayun, hindi tayo basta-basta hindi tayo dapat basta-basta naniniwala sa mga kung ano-anong bagay na nakikita natin, no. Kaya meron tayong standard of knowledge. Okay? So may mga range din ng standards, no? Philosophers have proposed various standards from requiring absolute certainty to accepting some margin of error. Since we are only human, prone to error, hindi talaga natin yon maiiwasan, no? Na magkakamali. Okay lang yun, na nagkamali. Kasi tao lang din naman tayo eh. Hindi pa nga natin alam yung purpose ng lahat ng bagay, no? Ayan. Pina-find out pa lang natin. Next slide po. Dito pa rin pala tayo. Certainty or infallibility. Nakikinig pa po ba lahat? Palakpak nga po kayo kung nakikinig kayo. Ayan, thank you po. Certainty or infallibility, no? Knowing something requires epistemic certainty and perfect justification, even if it is certainly not experienced. If knowledge requires perfection, then it is rare, if ever, that anyone actually knows anything, given human imperfections. Yan, narinig niyo ba yung sinabi ko, no? If knowledge requires perfection, then it is rare. Baga hindi siya common. Ganun. Infallibilism forces the question of whether any knowledge is ever truly attained. People may adopt this view because it seems more rigorous, ano. So, ang sabi dito, this view holds that for something to be known, it must be absolutely certain and perfectly justified. No? Yun yung certainty or infallibility. Kasi ang infallibility, ang meaning nito, baga, prone to error, ganun. Basta prone to error something, basta ganyan. Pero yun na yun mismo. This view holds that for something to be known, or for something to be known daw, it must be absolutely certain, no? And perfectly justified. If knowledge requires infallibility, then true knowledge is extremely rare because humans are often prone to error. Ika nga nila, palagi tayong nagkakamali. Infallibilism raises questions about whether we can truly know anything, no? Kung we can truly know anything ba talaga. So, yun. Infallibilism raises question, no? Kung kaya ba natin talaga malaman lahat at absolute certainty. Lahat ng bagay at absolute certainty, no? Like for example, ano bang pwede example natin? Ano maisip eh. Pero marami yan, guys. Yung isipin nyo na lang dyan. Sa harap ng ninyo, monitor ninyo. Ano? And ayun, next na tayo. Ay, eto pa pala. Ayun nga sabi ko, no, baga, we can we truly know anything ba talaga, no? So ayun, ang sabi dito, people may adopt this view because it seems more rigorous, no? Ang reason nila dito, people may lean towards infallibilism because it ensures rigor in defining knowledge, setting a high standard for reliability. Ayun, people may tend to settle for what they have na. Ano, kumbaga hindi pa sila ah hindi ayaw nilang mag-dig deep kasi ayaw nilang ma ma-bother mag-isip ng kung ano-ano, parang ganun. Okay, naiintindihan niyo ba ako, guys? Palakpak na ako kayo, naiintindihan niyo ako. Sana may maintindihan kayo sa mga pinagsasabi ko, guys, ah. Sabihin niyo lang, mag-raise hand lang kayo kung meron kayong question. Ay, ayan. Mamaya, pwede kayong magtanong pagtas ng discussion, para malinawan pa natin yung mga questions ninyo. Ay, fallibility. Fallibility, on the other hand, fallibilism accepts that knowledge can coexist with possibility of being wrong, which is more accommodating but may seem too lenient. Fallibilism, this perspective allows for possibility that knowledge might be incorrect or incomplete, accepting that humans can know things even with some chance of error. No? Fallibilism is more practical and flexible, allowing us to consider knowledge valid even if even if it is not absolutely certain. No? It is more aligned with how we actually experience and use knowledge in daily life. Ayan. Sabi dito, we allow things we allow knowledge ay we allow knowledge about certain things to be valid, no? Even if it is not absolute certain. Kumbaga hindi siya yung absolute certainty na knowledge na meron tayo sa bagay na yan. Kumbaga may tiwala tayo sa kung sino man taong pinaniniwalaan nating valid na nagsabi na ganito yung ganitong bagay, no? Na ganito gumagana yung isang bagay, na ganito nangyayari yung isang bagay. With this reason, with ganyan. With ganito ganyan, no? Syempre mga tao lang din tayo, ano? Mga tao nga lang naman tayong lahat. It is more aligned with how we actually experience, no? And use knowledge in daily life. Kung paano natin ginagamit yung knowledge na yun sa pang-araw-araw natin na buhay. So, some may argue, na that fallibilism is too lenient, as it does not guarantee absolute certainty, which can weaken the concept of knowledge, no? At originally, fallibilism is the philosophical principle that propositions can be accepted even though they cannot be conclusively proven or justified, or that neither knowledge nor belief is certain. No? Pag nothing is absolutely certain. Okay, next po. Limitations of knowledge. Ito na, hindi na tayo sa limitasyon ng kaalaman. The limitations of knowledge refer to the constraints and challenges that affect how we acquire, understand, and interpret information. These limitations highlight that our understanding of what is true or certain is often influenced by common sense, relativism, and certainty. Okay. Limitations of knowledge refer to the constraints, biases, and challenges in how we acquire, understand, and interpret information. These limitations reveal that what we perceive as true or certain is often influenced by subjective factors. Subjective factors such as common sense beliefs, cultural relativity, and desire for certainty. Next po. Here we have common sense. Knowledge based on common sense consists of beliefs, that seem obvious to most people, but can vary widely across cultures. No, for example, some may mistakenly believe that Earth is flat due to everyday perceptions. Illustrating how common sense can lead to misconceptions. Ano? So, ayun. So, na-debate na natin 'to nung nakaraan, ano. Maybe because of common sense, no, nakamap ng mga tao yung nakamap ng mga sinaunang tao noon na flat yung Earth kasi nga straight nga naman yung lakad nila, no. Kung hindi nga naman flat yung Earth, paano yung lakad nila? Kumbaga hindi straight path yung lakad ng mga tao noon. Kumbaga common sense nga naman. Hindi na sila masyado nag-dig deep sa nakita nila. Common sense knowledge is based on everyday beliefs, no? And assumptions that seem obvious or self-evident na sa lahat ng mga tao. So it also has its limitation. No? Common sense varies widely across cultures and can lead to misconceptions, no? For example, some people once believed the earth was flat. Ayun nga sabi ko, no? Some people believe that earth was once flat. That aligned it with their everyday observation, no? Which later disproven, no, ng mga scientists, no, through scientific evidence. Scientific evidence. Baga dinisprove nila na flat yung earth. Kasi nga hindi sila naniwala sa common sense lang eh. Kumbaga na-curious sila. Ba't ganun, no? Ganun. Isip nila, siyempre alamin natin kung ba't ganito. Yun yung ganito. Yun yung good thing sa mga tao. Di sila nagsisettle for less information lang. Baga nag-dig deep pa tayo, no? So, sabihin natin kung hindi natin nalaman na bilog pala yung Earth, no? Or hindi actually bilog, no? Kumbaga round yung shape ng Earth. Ano kaya tayo ngayon? Naniniwala pa rin tayo na flat yung Earth, no? Hindi para tayo mga tanga nun, no? Isipin niyo yun. Common sense can sometimes, restrict critical thinking. Yun nga, sabi ko. And prevent us from questioning or challenging the accepted ideas. Pang mga pang mga tamad lang to na tao kasi naniniwala sila sa common sense nila. Di nila china-challenge yung critical thinking nila. Pine-prevent nila yung sarili nila to questioning certain things, no? Kumbaga, ayan. So, let's move on to relativism naman. This suggests that knowledge and truth are not absolute and can differ based on perspectives, cultures, or contexts. Practices seen as ethical in one culture may be viewed as unethical in another culture, complicating universal claims about knowledge. Relativism holds that knowledge and truths are not absolute, but are shaped by individual perspectives, no? Or cultural backgrounds, ganyan. Or any situational context, no? It also has its limitation. Because knowledge and values can differ so greatly, relativism challenges the idea of universal truths, no? For instance, yung mga practices na deemed ethical sa isang culture might be considered unethical in another. Like for example, no? Yung ibang tao, ayun, yung mga Pilipino, nagmamano tayo, nagpopo, opo, no? Ethical sa atin 'yon. Sa iba naman, hindi sila mahilig maganon, no? Kasi di naman sa unethical sa kanila, kumbaga hindi nila nakasanayan. Okay. Ito na lang, the best example na lang dito, manghihimasok na tayo sa religion. Yung mga Muslim and yung mga non-Muslim na ang unethical sa mga Muslim na kumain ng ganitong part ng karne, no? Kumain ng ganitong pagkain, 'yan. Hindi sa kanila ethical 'yon. Unlike sa ibang religion na pwede naman silang kumain ng gano'n. So, 'yun yung relativism, no? Baga, yung practices na ethical sa isang culture, unethical sa iba. So, 'yun. Next po. Okay, certainty naman tayo. Certainty. It involves confidence in one's knowledge or beliefs. But claiming absolute certainty can be problematic daw, as it overlooks the potential for doubt and change, no? For instance, scientific theories may evolve with new discoveries, highlighting the need for open-mindedness. So sabi, certainty in knowledge daw involves a strong confidence in beliefs or conclusion, no? So it also has its limitation. Claiming absolute certainty can lead to a close-minded approach, no? Ignoring the potential for new information or change. In science, sabi natin, for example, sa science, no? May mga certain theories na often revised, no? As new evidences emerge. Kumbaga may mga bagong nadidiscover yung mga scientists, no? Pagka nare-revise pa yung mga scientific discoveries na meron sila. So which means certainty should be tempered with openness to revision. Okay? So ayun. Or tempered with openness to revision. Kumbaga yung kung anong na-discover natin about certain knowledge or scientific breakthrough, pwede pa yun siya ma-revise as new evidences emerge. No. Kumbaga it supports the open-mindedness ng isang individual. Overconfidence in knowledge daw kasi can stifle growth and adaptability, while a balanced approach allows for continuous learning and discovery. No? Next slide po. Okay, so as for belief, this will be discussed by my next partner. So kung nakikinig pa po kayo, mag-react po tayo ng heart. And I hope na makinig pa po kayo sa discussion nila. So ayun lang. Thank you po. Okay, next presenter po.
So, good morning everyone. So, react nga po kung naririnig. Heart react. Ayun, so, proceed na tayo sa belief, no? So, next slide po. So, in the philosophy of mind, or philosophical term, belief refers to the attitude we hold when we regard something as true, without requiring active reflection. So, itong without requiring active reflection, basically, ito yung hindi natin kailangan, yung belief na hindi natin kailangan constantly na iniisip natin. So, parang subconsciously, aware lang tayo dun sa isang bagay na pinaniniwalaan natin. At ayun, naniniwala tayo dun. So, kaya nga eto sinasabi dito na many beliefs are mundane. So meaning mundane, typical or generic. So this means that many beliefs are that we hold are everyday, ordinary things that we don't think twice about. So ang example niyan is you believe that you have a head without even questioning it. And similarly, you believe that it's the 21st century because it's a fact you've accepted without much thought. So these kinds of belief are common and basic that we often take them for granted. So ayun yung meaning nung without recurring active reflection. So unlike ordinary English usage, philosophical belief doesn't imply uncertainty or extended reflection. So basically opposite siya ng ordinary English usage. Or hindi lang siya limitado sa English. Yung mga pang-araw-araw na lengguwahe natin, like tayo mga Pilipino, na Tagalog, ganun. So ang ini-imply lang ng ordinary English usage ay ayun, merong degree of doubt or uncertainty unlike sa philosophical context. So example nito, one might say that he or she believes that uulan bukas, that it will rain tomorrow. But syempre, may degree of doubt doon and uncertainty kasi hindi naman sure yon na uulan bukas. So may possible pa rin na hindi uulan, di ba? So ayun, however, in philosophical term, belief is more about acceptance. That tinatanggap natin yung isang bagay na totoo without requiring active reflection as stated earlier. So this really relates to mind-body problem. So ayan, central to the mind-body problem. Basically, ito yung ina-understand natin kung paano nagre-relate yung utak natin sa katawan natin and sa mind body. So it plays a crucial role in epistemology, which is the study of knowledge. So for context, belief is considered as a necessary condition for knowledge. And knowledge is traditionally defined as the justified true belief. So, mamaya i-debate mamaya yung about dyan. So, ang gist lang nito, justified true belief is, for someone to know something, they must believe it. It must be true, and they must have justification for that belief, which leads to more questions. Ayan, sinasabi dito, where it relates to questions about justification and knowledge. So, next slide po. And dito na tayo sa mga philosophers and how they approach the term belief or how they define it. So, next slide po. So, simulan natin kay Plato. So, para sa kanya, dinifferentiate niya yung belief, which is doxa, and knowledge, episteme, where belief is seen as uncertain and opinion-based, while knowledge is justified and true. So basically, para kay Plato, beliefs are based on perception ng mga individuals, and ito ay subjective from the personal experiences, kumbaga. So, iniindicate lang nito na it is often less reliable and more prone to errors kasi nga ayun, more on subjective siya, di ba? While knowledge is justified, true, and certain. So, next po. So, the next philosopher is Descartes, radical doubt. So, René Descartes used radical doubt to question all beliefs, concluding that belief in one's own existence is undeniable. So, dito siya nakilala sa kanya philosophical statement na cogito ergo sum, which translate to I think therefore I am. So nabanggit naman to kanina ni Gian. So bibigyan ko lang ng kung ano ibig sabihin niyan. So sabihin niyan, while we could doubt the existence of everything else other than ourselves, so yung ibang halos lahat ng bagay other than sa sarili natin, the very act of doubting or thinking, yung pag-iisip, confirms our own existence as a thinking being. So we can't deny our existence because the very act of doubting or thinking na nag-iisip tayo, that we are a thinking being. So, yun yun. So, next. So, David Hume, belief as habit. So, David Hume argued that many beliefs arise from habit, not reason, particularly those about cause and effect. So para mas maintindihan natin, magbibigay ako example. So basic example is if we've seen a fire, yun, sunog, followed by apoy, followed by a smoke, many times, so parang lagi-lagi na ayun yung na-observe natin, we naturally infer that fire causes smoke. That ayun yung sanhi ng usok is yung apoy. However, para kay Hume, he pointed out that this inference is based on habit and custom. Ayun nga yung sa palagian, sa nakasanayan. And not on logical reasoning. So, no reason. So, we can't logically prove that one event causes another. We simply infer it based on past observations. So, ayun yung tinutukoy rito, which is arise from habit, not reason, yung mga beliefs natin. Ayon kay David Hume. So, next. So, dito naman tayo kay William James, the pragmatism. So, he claimed that belief is justified when it helps individuals cope with life, even with conclusive evidence. So, he argued that beliefs should be evaluated based on their practical effects or kung paano nakakatulong ba ito sa isang tao, yung practical na halaga nito, and how they help individuals navigate and cope with life. So, if a belief proves useful and beneficial in a person's life, it can be considered justified even in the absence of definite evidence. So kahit wala kang hindi siya walang empirical evidence or any evidence, basta nakakatulong siya sa buhay ng isang tao, may practical effect siya sa buhay ng isang tao, ma-considered siyang justified. So, ayun. So, next po. Okay, dito na tayo kay Wittgenstein. Language and belief. So, dito naman sa kanya, claim niya na belief is justified when it... Parang naulit. Okay, so anahin ko na lang. Andito. So, Wittgenstein explored how beliefs are shaped by language and social context, suggesting that understanding beliefs requires understanding language. So basically, para sa kanya, para maintindihan natin ang isang paniniwala, kailangan naintindihan natin yung lengguwahe nito o yung konteksto nito. So, example na lang. So, sa concept ng word na justice. So, sa legal context, justice refers to the fair application of laws and the protection of individual rights. But in moral or philosophical discussion, it could involve broader considerations in fairness, equality, and ethical principles. Thus, to understand someone's belief about justice, one must consider how they use the term in their specific social context and the practices that inform their understanding. So ayun yung basically sa pragmatism by language and belief by Wittgenstein. So next, ayun pala. So next ulit. So dito na tayo sa ways of belief. So next ulit. So we can sort the beliefs into various types depending on their degree, their object, or their semantic properties. So let's tackle it. Next page po. So first is the occurrent and dispositional belief. So these are beliefs, current beliefs are beliefs that mind considers actively, whether consciously or unconsciously. In contrast, dispositional beliefs are those unconsidered beliefs by our mind, but are kept in the memory of other ideas and shall be recalled that leads to an apparent belief. So ito yung example. Pag yan, naniniwala tayo na yung upuan, masasupport yung weight natin. So this is dispositional belief kasi hindi natin siya kailangan isipin pa, di ba? So rather, it leads to production of certain occurrence like sitting on a chair. So basically, in summary, occurrent beliefs are those that are actively in a person's consciousness. So active siya na naisip natin. While dispositional beliefs are those that are held more passively and may only become active under certain circumstances. So next is full and partial. Full beliefs are all or nothing. An individual either believes some proposition or does not, though it can readily be changed upon receiving updated evidences. Alternatively, partial beliefs more stable and counts by degrees. An individual can partly believe a proposition having a lower or higher degree of confidence in its truths. So sa full beliefs, characterized siya by a strong conviction and the readiness to act in accordance to the belief. So basically, dalawang bagay lang siya. Naniniwala ka o hindi. So ayun lang yung full belief. So kaya tinatawag siyang full beliefs. While in partial, it holds varying degrees of belief about a proposition, ranging from strong doubt to mild acceptance. That's why it's partial. So may mga degree siya. So ito yung example. Sophia believes that Tokyo is the capital of Japan. So ayun yung full belief, which is the more stronger. So Sophia's belief that Tokyo is the capital of Japan is stronger in some sense than her belief that Tokyo is more populous than Bangkok. So yun yung partial form niya, which is pwede niyang i-accept na totoo but may degree siya. May degree of doubt. So pwedeng strong doubt to mild acceptance. So next is the belief in and belief that. So belief that can be defined as a propositional attitude toward a claim that is either true or false. Belief in, on the other hand, is more closely related to terms like trust or faith, in that it normally refers to an attitude toward people. So example niyan is a belief in marriage could be translated as a belief that marriage is good. So basically, belief that is focused on specifics. So specific proposition siya and their truth by value. While belief in much broader siya and mostly sa context siya ng commitment sa or trust in concepts, values, or entities. Example is um, we believe in God. So that's a belief in. So it encompasses a broader commitment. So next slide po. So dito na tayo sa iba't ibang klase ng belief. So next po. So ayan. There are these distinctions highlight different levels of clarity, support, and rationality in beliefs. Next po. So, vague belief. So, ito, hindi ko na siya kailangan masyado basahin kasi ano naman siya eh. Obvious naman siya and ayan, nakasulat naman na. So, basically, ito yung mga paniniwalang walang masyadong explanation, di ba? Walang evidences, walang nagso-support. So, ito yung example niya. So, I believe things will get better. So, vague siya, di ba? Kasi wala siyang ini-specify kung ano yung better dun. So next is well-supported belief. Ito basically opposite lang siya ng vague belief eh. So basically ito may backed by strong evidence and rational justification. Iyan yung mga empirical data. So ito example niya is effectiveness, believing in the effectiveness of vaccines. So well-supported siya kasi ayun, by scientific research and data siya. So ayun yung well-supported belief. Next po. So belief that is beyond reasonable doubt. So head with certainty and emotional commitment, often not subject to question or doubt. So ang example nito is more on deep moral or religious conviction. So magbibigay rin ako ng sa example ko lang. So sa religion ng Christianity, they may hold the belief that God exists based on personal experiences, historical events, and the transformative impact of their faith in their lives. While this belief may not be empirically verifiable in the same way as scientific claims, so hindi mo siya marerelate sa scientific claims. For many believers sa mga naniniwala, the profound sense of purpose, community, and moral guidance derived from their faith can lead them to feel that their belief in God is beyond reasonable doubt. They may argue that the consistency of their experiences, the teaching of the religious texts, and the testimonies of others in their community provide compelling reasons to hold this belief with a high degree of certainty. So, next na tayo. So, limitation naman tayo, mga limitation on beliefs. So, it highlights the balance needed in evaluating beliefs, emphasizing the importance of judgment, critical thinking, and a healthy approach of skepticism. So, yun, next po. So, dito tayo sa tinatawag na the role of judgment. So, the formation of belief often relies on personal judgment, which can influence by biases, emotion, and cognitive limitation. So poor judgment can lead to the adoption of unfounded or irrational beliefs, making it essential to critically assess and reflect on one's reasoning process. So pinapoint out lang dito na, ayun, ang example ng poor judgment ay itong sometimes yung often personal judgment kasi based mostly biased siya and subjective siya yon sa emotion and cognitive limitation ng isang individual. So mas better na we critically assess, nagpa-practice tayo na critically assess and reflect on one's reasoning process. So example, a person might believe in a particular political view is correct based solely on what friends or social media say. So, ayun, naniwala siya sa kaibigan niya o sa nakikita niya sa social media rather than examining the evidence. So this judgment can lead to adopting a belief that isn't well founded. Kasi hindi niya in-apply yung critically assess and reflection. So next po. So the danger of gullibility. Gullibility refers to a tendency to be easily deceived or to accept beliefs without sufficient scrutiny. Scrutiny meaning ito yung pag well-examined ng isang bagay. So this can lead individuals to adopt false or harmful beliefs as they may trust unreliable sources or overlook evidence that contradicts their views. Example, an individual may fall for a health scam promoting a miracle cure that lacks scientific backing. Their gullibility leads them to believe in something that could be harmful or ineffective often because they didn't question the claims truly. So dito kailangan yung mga nakikita natin sa mga bagay-bagay sa internet, mas kailangan natin alamin, di ba? Kung reliable ba or hindi. Kasi pwede natin ma-overlook yun. And ayun, ma-deceive tayo, which is yun, the danger of gullibility. Pwede siyang yung pinagkaiba niya sa role of judgment, basically. Kasi sa role of judgment, meron kang judgment, but most of the time, personal judgment siya. So, it still can lead to poor judgment. And yun nga, kailangan mong critically assess. While dito naman, basically, ito yung tendency na maniwala ka sa isang bagay, na ma-deceive ka. So, dito more on contextual siya na kailangan hanapin mo yung kung reliable ba yung sources na yun. So, next slide po. So, the danger of skepticism. While healthy skepticism encourages critical thinking and questioning, ito yung pagtatanong ng mga bagay-bagay, skepticism. So, excessive skepticism can lead to nihilism. So, nihilism, ito yung pag-view sa buhay na meaningless. So, kumbaga, walang halaga yung sarili mo or yung mga paligid mo. So, ayun yung nihilism. Or paralysis in decision making. So, when taking too far, it can prevent individuals from accepting valid beliefs or evidence, hindering personal growth and understanding. So, example, someone may doubt all scientific findings about climate change to the point where they refuse to take action or engage in discussion about environmental issues. So, this extreme skepticism can hinder meaningful engagement and progress on important topics. So, ayun, kapag excessive na yung skepticism natin, parang nagiging denial na tayo sa mga bagay-bagay. So, it hinders personal growth and, of course, understanding. So, yung susunod sa akin is si Clarence, which comparison for knowledge and belief. So, yan, si Clarence na po.
So, hello, good morning po. Naririnig po ba ako? Kindly hard react po. So, thank you so much po. Now, I will be presenting the knowledge belief. Next slide po. So, justify true belief as a knowledge. So, to have some insight, this topic frames knowing as more than just belief or truth. It is a belief that aligns with reality and has a solid basis. Next slide po. So first is Plato. So for the search of truth and wisdom, Plato was the first philosopher who defined knowledge. Plato, in his writings, described knowledge as true belief with an account or logos, meaning that for a belief to be knowledge, it should be true and backed by a solid reasoning or explanation. So hindi lang basta na maniniwala ka, dapat may rason kung bakit totoo yung belief mo. It is generally assumed that traditional theory of knowledge is justified through belief. Meaning, for something to be knowledge, it should be true, you must believe it, and may solid justification ka for believing it, which is nabanggit na rin po kanina. This is generally admitting that we can have knowledge only of what is true. Next slide po. So John Rawls examines this assertion by highlighting that we know P to be true if and only if, number one, it is true that P. So very simple po, para po magkaroon ng knowledge, dapat totoo talaga yung belief mo. Kasi po kung hindi, well, hindi mo talaga makaklaim na alam mo to. So number two, John believes that P, kailangan mo talagang maniwala. So sinasabi po dito ni Rock na hindi dapat passive ka lang. You have to actively hold that belief. It's like saying, hindi ka pwedeng umupo lang sa sidelines, but you have to be in the game. And number three, John has a belief that P is justified. So lastly, andyan yung justification. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mo ng solid reasoning or evidence para patunayan ang belief mo. Hindi pwedeng sabihin na, ay naniniwala ako dito kasi feeling ko totoo siya. Dapat ipakita mo kung bakit mo siya pinaniniwalaan. Next slide po. Thus, we can assume that there are three minimum conditions for knowledge. They are true or it must be true. This means it should reflect reality and cannot be based on false information. Sa madaling salita, kung hindi ito totoo, hindi natin matuturing na knowledge to. Next is belief, or we must actually believe it. Belief must be consciously held. So knowledge isn't just about facts. We must genuinely believe it for it to be classified as knowledge. Ang belief ay dapat talagang nakatanim sa isip natin at hindi lang natin basta sinasabi. And last is justification is present. There must be sufficient evidence for it. There should be good reasons or evidence supporting what we claim to know. Dapat may sapat tayong ebidensya para patunayan na ang ating kaalaman or knowledge ay tama at hindi lang base sa opinion or haka-haka. Next slide po. So therefore, what is known has to be fact and thus true must come from the regard of the person acknowledging it as a truth. So meaning knowledge is not just about the information itself. It's also about how we interpret and understand it in our lives. This also means that even if something is factually correct, our personal experiences and beliefs shape how we perceive that knowledge. Kung paano natin ito nauunawaan at tinatanggap sa buhay natin, nagiging mahalaga ito sa pagbuo ng tunay nating knowledge or kaalaman. Next slide po. Next is Edmund. However, Edmund Gettier challenged this definition with his paper titled, "Is Justified True Belief Knowledge?" That, for a reason to know something, there are three conditions that must be met. So first is, the belief must be true. So para masabi mong alam mong isang bagay, dapat totoo ito. I mean, you cannot claim to know something if it is based on a lie, hindi po ba? So truth is essential here. If a belief isn't true, no amount of justification will turn it into knowledge. Next is, the person must believe it. Siyempre, dapat naniniwala ka sa sinasabi mong alam mo. Para kasi ang weird naman po, no, kung if you have facts but you don't actually believe in them. So for knowledge to be authentic, there has to be belief. It's what makes your knowledge feel real to you. And last, the person must have justification for believing it. May basihan ang paniniwala mo. Hindi pwedeng haka-haka lang or I feel like it's true. You need a logical reason or evidence to back it up, like facts, research, or credible sources. This is what makes it justified. Hindi lang siya basta hula or chismis. Next slide po. So Gettier provides two counterexamples to prove that these conditions are not enough to define something as knowledge. Gettier argues that although the beliefs in each case are true and justified, they shouldn't qualify as knowledge as the reasons for the belief's truths are more coincidental than rational. So, ibig sabihin po, no, kahit na may conditions na to, hindi po to ginagaranti yung tunay na knowledge na nakuha mo. Or baka swerte lang siya. For example. Next slide po. So, example 1. Smith concludes that the man who will get the job has 10 coins in his pocket because he has strong evidence to support his belief that Jones will get the job and Jones has 10 coins in his pocket. However, it turns out that Smith not Jones, is hard, and ironically, Smith also has 10 coins in his pocket. Although Smith's belief is true and justified, he didn't really know the truth because it was more the result of coincidence than of logic. So, sa example po na to, naniniwala si Smith na totoo yung belief niya dahil may solid evidence siyang pinanghahawakan. Pero as a result, hindi po talaga nakadepende sa reasoning niya. Parang swerte lang siya na meron din siyang 10 coins. Kaya hindi ito matuturing na tunay na knowledge po, no? Kasi nagkataon lang na nagka-align ng belief niya sa nangyari. Next slide po. So, example number 2, Smith concludes that either Jones owns a Ford or Brown is in Barcelona. Even though he is unaware of Brown's location, Smith has reason to assume that Jones owns a Ford. It turns out that Brown is in fact in Barcelona, but Jones does not own a Ford. Again, the belief is true and justified, but it looks like Smith doesn't really know this. So dito po, no, naniniwala si Smith sa conclusion niya dahil may justification siya. Pero hindi ito connected sa reality. Nagkataon lang na nagkatotoo yung belief dahil nandun nga si Brown sa Barcelona, pero hindi dahil sa reasoning niya. Kaya hindi ito tunay na knowledge. So, mako-conclude natin to na parang swerte lang na tumama siya. Next slide po. The two counterexamples provided by Edmund Gettier contradicts the traditional definition of knowledge as justified true belief. As shown in the two counterexamples, Smith beliefs were justified and true. However, they seem to be purely coincidental rather than a logical connection between the justification and the actual circumstances. According to Gettier's argument, in order for something to be considered to be knowledge, it has to meet additional conditions along with truth, belief, and justification. These conditions include considering the way in which the justification and the truth relate in each other in a way that excludes the possibility of coincidental truths. So, yung examples po na binigay ni Gettier, no, it shows na kahit may justified true belief, hindi pa rin matatawag na knowledge yun ang isang belief. Kasi again, para maging tunay na knowledge, kailangan may solid na connection ang justification at truth. So hindi lang siya basta coincidence or swerte. Next slide po. So, ayun po, no? So that concludes this topic theory. I hope you learned something from our discussion po. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Team A, for your elaborative presentation. Okay, the references. Okay, very good. Now, we will proceed or move forward with our debate topic. Okay, is justified true belief a good definition for knowledge? Okay, so based on the theory topic, no, marami tayong magagamit dito. Specifically si opposition. Gagamitin nila si get-gear problem. Okay, so siguro at makikita natin kung predict ba ni proposition na gagamitin opposition itong get-gear case. Kasi one way to destroy the JTBI through this problem. Pero yeah, meron din philosophers na nag-introduce din ng idea na kung paano ba i-disprove si Gettier problem. So sana lang nabasa ni proposition yan. Well, anyways, let me just ask for the proposition. Can you kindly raise your hand? Sa si proposition. Okay, we have Patrick, Matthew, and then who's the third person? Okay, let's start with Patrick. Paki-open yung mic. Medyo,
Hello po, sir.
ayan, okay, much better. Oops, ano siya, nagro-robot sound. Paki-try to fix nga. How about Matthew?
Hello po, sir. Narinig
Ayan,
po ba?
okay, sino yung pangatlong member, Matthew?
Absent po yung pangatlo po naming members na nag-usap pa po kami.
Okay. Pero meron kayong substitute or kaya niyong dalawa?
Wala daw po. Wala po. Kaming dalawa na lang po.
Okay, sige. Balik tayo kay Patrick. Patrick, pa-open niya ulit yung mic.
Good morning po, sir.
Pakilakasan yung boses.
Good morning po.
Ayan, okay, much better. Thank you, Patrick. How about the opposition? Kindly raise your hand. We have Marcus, and then Pransen, at saka dalawa lang din. Sige, start tayo with Marcus. Try natin yung mic mo. Okay, walang audio. Walang audio, Mr. Marcus. Hindi. On my side, hindi ko siya naririnig. How about the others? Naririnig niyo ba si Marcus?
Hindi po.
Ayan, si Francen na mismo yung sumagot. Okay, so try to fix it muna, Marcus. Bibigyan ka namin ng time. And then, Miss Francen, sino yung third member?
Si Marian May po. Legaspi.
Andito ba si Miss Legaspi? Ayun, andito naman. Marian, ayan, paki-open nga yung mic.
Good morning po.
Okay, good morning. So, wait na lang natin si Marcus, no? Wala pa rin siya, Marcus. Wala pa rin siya. Hello, Maria Tere. Wala pa rin, Marcus.
Hi, sir. Good morning po.
Okay, good morning. Bale, may excuse letter ba kayo for next week?
For what time, sir? Sa Wednesday po?
Oo, kasi meron daw kayong DepTals.
Wala pa, sir. Pwede pong isunod na lang po namin.
Okay, pero pasok ba siya sa ating schedule or hindi?
Hello po.
Oops. Pakitry nga ulit, Marcus.
Rinig na po, sir.
Ayan, much better. Okay, sige.
Okay po.
Thank you. Mamaya na lang ulit, Miss Tere. Pag-usapan na lang natin later. Okay, so since okay na po yung mga mic, na-check na po natin sila. Someone share their screen? Si Annalise na lang. Siya yung nag-share screen kanina. Ayan, si Van. Okay, very good. Ups, wag ka man mag-flip. Wala. Okay. Marcus, heads or tails?
Tails po.
Okay, paki-flip nga. Van. Okay, since panalo yung tails, mauunang mag-talk yung proposition. Okay, so without further ado, I gave you the floor. You may start.
Good morning, everyone. The historical context of the justified true belief concept is deeply rooted in the writings of Plato, particularly in his dialogues Meno and Theaetetus. In Meno, Plato introduces the idea that knowledge is not merely a product of empirical learning, but can be derived from logical reasoning and inquiry. He He posits that knowledge is innately present within an individual, but it is often obscured by worldly experiences. This idea suggests that knowledge can be recollected through reasoned inquiry, a precursor to the philosophical exploration of how we come to know anything at all. So in Theaetetus, Plato's exploration of knowledge is more direct and provides the closest precursor to the more modern JTB definition. Through a dialogue between Socrates and Theaetetus, three potential definitions of knowledge are examined. The first definition, knowledge as perception, it is swiftly rejected by Socrates, who points out that perceptions can vary and do not necessarily reflect objective truth. The second definition, knowledge as true belief, is also criticized because Socrates suggests that true belief can arise by chance and does not guarantee knowledge. This leads to Socrates to propose the third definition, true belief that is justified by reasoning or evidence. This suggestion is considered the precursor to the formalized JTB framework, which asserts that for someone to know something, three conditions must be met: belief, truth, and justification. So, we all operate in everyday life with an implicit understanding that knowledge involves belief in a true position and that our belief should be backed by our reasons and evidence. If someone believes that something is false, like thinking it's raining when it's sunny, we wouldn't say they know that it's raining. Even if they sincerely believe it, this shows that the truth condition is essential. Similarly, if they believe something true without any evidence or justification, like guessing the right answer without reasoning, we wouldn't say they know that either. This highlights the importance of justification. So JTB provides a practical and measurable standard for determining what we know. In science and law, and every decision making, it's crucial to have a clear criteria for what counts as knowledge. JTB offers a way to distinguish between mere belief and true knowledge, helping us evaluate whether someone's belief is well-grounded in truth and reason. Understanding how people justify their beliefs is critical for fields like therapy, education, and behavioral science. When people fail to properly justify their beliefs, it can lead to psychological or behavioral consequences, such as making poor decisions based on faulty beliefs or misunderstanding the world around them. Though critics have pointed out that JTB may not cover all cases of knowledge, like get your problems, these challenges do not invalidate the framework entirely. They invite further refinement, but they don't suggest we should abandon the concept. In fact, these challenges demonstrate how JTB gives us a flexible foundation for a deeper exploration into what knowledge truly is, both in philosophy and in understanding human cognition. Next speaker, please.
Justified true belief has always been used as a way to explain what is knowledge or what it means for a person to know something. It's mainly used to define propositional knowledge, in which knowledge is based on facts but can be proven in a real way to find out whether this kind of knowledge is actually true in the real world. Um, this way of thinking is used to define something as knowledge for more than 2,000 years since Plato's conception. It is embedded in our scientific method, in which we use to discover and prove new knowledge, in where we make an hypothesis based on our current knowledge, in which we do an experiment to test the hypothesis is true, and if it's true, then we consider it as new knowledge, and if it's not, then it's not considered as knowledge. Any supposed knowledge that is formulated through justified true belief can always have its parts be questioned to further enhance its credibility. Be considered knowledge because it's always impossible to have perfect evidence or to know the whole truth of something in the real world. That's why we have the opinion that justified true belief is an overall good definition of knowledge. That's all.
Okay na po. Um, Good day to you, sir, and good day to you, my fellow classmates. We were given a topic about is justified true belief a good definition for knowledge? We, as the against side, believe that it cannot be considered as a proper basis of what it means to be knowledge. So, to begin, the traditional justified true belief, or rather in simple words, JTB, a theory that has long been a foundation for defining knowledge, claiming that to know something, a person must believe it, it must be true, and there must be a justification for the belief. This, justified true belief was coined by Plato in his epistemological formulation wherein knowledge is justified through belief, wherein that is to say that a belief, or rather an observation, if you will, is only considered as knowledge if it is justified and it turns out to be true, which is why it has three main necessary conditions in order to satisfy that something is considered as knowledge. This is a belief, the belief must be held true and it has justification, where justification can be considered as one, an evidence that will support its claim, and two, it must be reliable such that it is considered as the norms of society. So going back, while initially compelling, this definition was critically challenged in the 1960s by philosopher Edmund Gettier, who showed that even when a belief meets all three JTB criteria, it might still fall short of true knowledge. Next speaker, please.
One of Gettier's famous scenarios goes like this. Smith has strong evidence to believe Joe will get a job because the company president assured him. Smith also knows Joe has 10 coins in his pocket, so he concludes the person who will get the job has 10 coins in their pocket. However, in a surprising turn of events, Smith himself gets the job, and by coincidence, he also has exactly 10 coins in his pocket. Here, Smith's belief was both true and justified, but his knowledge was really just a lucky guess, not a genuine knowledge. To expand to that explanation, imagine on a hot day, you spot what appears to be water in a distance, only to realize it was a mirage. However, upon approaching, you coincidentally find an actual water under a rock nearby. According to JTB, this belief could count as knowledge, yet your discovery was driven by luck, not genuine insight, a flaw that demonstrates how JTB falls short. Next speaker, please.
Therefore, one major problem with the idea of JTB is its justification. Justification is supposed to connect our beliefs to the truth through perception, memory, or reasoning. However, each of these methods can be unreliable. Our senses can deceive us, like when we think we see water in a mirage. Our memories can be faulty, like if you remember seeing a person at the store yesterday, but later realize your memory was mixed up with someone else, and your belief about the person was justified but not true. And our reasoning can sometimes lead to incorrect conclusions. If justification itself can be flawed, it raises doubts about whether JTB can be truly defined knowledge. And this inadequacy in JTB has led many philosophers to explore alternative theories to fill its gaps. Gettier cases and subsequent theories, including reliabilism, Nozick's tracking theory and virtue epistemology argue that a deeper understanding of knowledge demands more than just the JTB conditions. These perspectives show why JTB may be insufficient and push us to reconsider what really constitutes knowledge. Also, some philosophers believe that knowledge doesn't always involve beliefs we're actively aware of. For example, think about when you ride a bike. You don't have to think about each movement or remember every step to keep your balance. You just know how to do it, almost automatically. This type of knowledge is called a tacit knowledge, meaning you know how to do something without having to consciously think about every detail. So maybe not all knowledge requires a clear active belief. You know how to ride a bike even if you're not consciously thinking. I believe I know how to ride this bike. This raises the idea that this knowledge can sometimes happen without us needing to form an explicit belief. Furthermore, from the lecture earlier, innate knowledge is mentioned, which means that we're born knowing certain things even before we learn them from experience. For example, some think that we're born with an understanding of things like numbers or right and wrong without ever having to be taught. If this is true, it challenges the idea of JTB because, according to JTB, to know something, we have to believe it. It has to be true, and we need a good reason or justification for believing it. But with innate knowledge, we don't need to learn or justify what we know, as we already know it from the birth. So, due to these issues with JTB, many philosophers even argue that it isn't enough to fully explain what knowledge is. They have explored other ideas like reliabilism and virtual epistemology that I've said earlier, which suggest that knowledge goes beyond justification, truth, and belief. And this perspective challenges to think more deeply about what it truly means to know something, aiming for a definition that better captures the nature of knowledge, which is not a JTB. And also, from the introduction of the first group, Patrick already said that JTB is not applicable to all cases. Then, therefore, it shouldn't be a universal definition of knowledge. And it's not a good definition of knowledge if it only applies to certain cases. Any good definition, any definition of certain things should apply to all relevant cases, not just some of them. If a definition only works in certain situations but fail in others, it isn't a complete or reliable definition. In the case of JTB, it works in many instances, but there are clear examples like Gettier cases where JTB fails to accurately define knowledge. Therefore, since it doesn't cover all situations where we would consider something knowledge, JTB is not a good definition of knowledge.
Let's proceed to the rebuttal spot. Hello po.
Ay, hello? Ano po ba? Um, for my rebuttal, first off, there are levels of justification for belief in the knowledge. If justification can never be always true, then it means that we never really know anything, since it's impossible to have true or 100% evidence. But that's not always true. We always try to find the most accurate evidence for things even if it's not perfect. There is no perfect definition for anything since language is inherently flawed. To explain things that isn't within its scope or things that could be explained with, but with using justified true belief, knowledge can be argued with or be corrected depending on how accurate the evidence supporting that knowledge is. Next speaker.
Tapos na po ba yung rebuttal?
Wait lang po. Another thing po is that the justified true belief as a definition has been modified or has been added with as a basis for other definitions of knowledge, meaning that it can be used as a foundation of a definition for knowledge since it has always been used to define new to define new definitions of knowledge. Since we know that it is like the basis or the foundation of new definitions of knowledge, we think that we know we are in an opinion that JTB is a use since it is always used as a foundation of their new definitions.
So additionally, innate knowledge can fit into the justified true belief framework by considering the following concept. So belief, even if we're not consciously aware of it, we are born with the certain beliefs or mental structure that guide our action, like the belief in cause or and effect or recognizing basic patterns. So in truth, these innate beliefs are true because they correspond to real aspects of the world, like how reflexes, for example, pulling away from the heat, are accurate responses to real dangers. Just for justification, innate knowledge doesn't need external reasoning like learned knowledge. Instead, it justifies because it comes from the evolution or biological processes that are reliable and helpful to serve for us to survive. So innate knowledge meets the JTBK criteria in a more automatic or built-in way, not requiring conscious justification but still fitting the basic structure of the framework. Therefore, we can say that all other definition of JTB comes uses JTB as its core for it to be firm. That's all.
Good
Another
day
reason,
po.
sige, ikaw muna, Marcos.
Sige lang.
Okay, so another reason why JTB doesn't work well as a universal definition of knowledge because it doesn't take into account epistemic contextualism, which suggests that what counts as knowledge can change depending on the situation. Like, for example, in low stake scenarios, like casually talking about the weather, having a justified true belief might be enough to count as knowledge. However, in high stakes situations like making life or death decisions, the same belief might not count as knowledge, even if it's justified and true. For example, if you trust a weather app without double checking before deciding whether to drive through a dangerous intersection, your belief might not be enough in such an important situation. Therefore, GTB doesn't account for the fact that knowledge standards need to be higher when the consequences are greater, which makes it an incomplete and insufficient definition for knowledge. Go, Marcos.
And additionally, we cannot consider that justified true belief is an actual basis for knowledge because some situations, or rather, a justified knowledge can also happen coincidentally or through luck, as stated by the Gautier problem in its first case. That yes, it may be considered as knowledge, yet there's still a chance or a probability that it is depicted as a coincidence or luck. And another thing is that we can also consider um it is the lottery paradox proposed by Kyberg HE, in which, yes, consider a fair lottery with a million tickets. When you consider that, yes, there's a high possibility that you will fail, but there's still 1 in a million chance that you will win. We consider that knowledge is also a possibility, a probability that it may change depending on a given situation. Next speaker po.
So it's true that JTB provides a structured approach. It doesn't fully capture the fluid and diverse nature of knowledge across different contexts and contexts. As you rightly point out, evidence isn't always perfect or definitive, but knowledge the JTB knowledge includes many valid practical points of knowledge that might not fit neatly into this JTB framework. Next speaker, please.
So all in all, the bottom line of all our arguments is if JTB doesn't apply to all situations, all relevant cases, then how can you say even it that JTB is a good definition for knowledge? So therefore, our point is JTB is not a good definition for knowledge because there are cases that arises like get your problem and the epistemic contextualism shows that JTB is not applicable. It's not universally applicable to everything. So it shouldn't be a definition in the first place. Okay na po.
Cross-examination na po.
So while it's true that belief alone isn't enough, that's precisely why JTB requires three conditions: belief, truth, and justification, whether working together to qualify as knowledge. The framework acknowledge that belief alone, or even belief plus, is insufficient for knowledge. Regarding the high-stakes situation, JTB still provides a solid foundation for evaluating knowledge. The rigor of justification can be adapted to fit the importance of the context, such as scientific or legal standards. However, no framework is without challenges, and JTB does allow for refinements to address edge cases, like those highlighted by get-year problems. Rather than dismissing JTB as insufficient, we should see it as a flexible foundation that guides our understanding of knowledge and serves practical purposes across fields where reliable knowledge is crucial. If we will scrutinize Getier's problem and other definition mentioned by Red, such as reliabilism, you will see that the that the framework of JTB is still used as to its core, but to a different context. Next speaker, please.
Um, Knowledge has always been as good as its evidence. However, if every evidence is unreliable, does that disqualify all knowledge that human gains through observation and experience? How would we distinguish between justified and unjustified beliefs in daily life?
Yan na po ba for cross-examination?
Waiting for the kalaban.
Ay, sorry, pwede po paki-repeat ng question po.
Okay, wait. Okay. Knowledge has always been as good as its evidence. However, if every evidence is unreliable, does that disqualify all knowledge that human gains through observation experience? How would we distinguish between justified and unjustified beliefs in daily life?
Yes, justified through belief. Knowledge can be found in our environment and from through conversations. Yet, as you stated, na how can we, ano ba ulit yun? How can we know if justified through knowledge is different from unjustified? Um, from our point, justified through belief cannot be considered as knowledge because in the beginning because one it is fallible to change where change is always inevitable, and another is in cases that yes a situation might be true but it can also happen through luck or coincidence as Gapier's case stated, and it can also be um, it can also lead to tawag nito, a certain manipulation or rather if we think about it in a sensory and in our cognitive functions, if we see things that or rather if we view things as the actual truth, how can we actually know if that truth is real? If, for example, a mirage, we see that it has water, yet when we arrived, there was no mirage, but there was water inside. So we can say that it is true, but at the same time, it is not. Next speaker.
Clarification, your question is about how would we know or how would we differentiate if a knowledge is justified or unjustified. So in the context of JTB, justified means that you have good reasons or evidence to support your belief. This could come from reliable sources, right? And on the other hand, unjustified are those that lack strong evidence or reasons. So like if you believe it will rain simply because you saw dark clouds in the sky and have no other information, your belief may be unjustified. However, the idea of justification can be complicated because what counts as good evidence or a good reason may differ from person to person or culture to culture, which creates the problem of cultural relativism. What one person or group sees as justified, another may not. This brings into question whether justification is truly a solid and universal way to distinguish between justified and unjustified beliefs. Because if justification itself is subjective or unreliable, it challenges the idea that it's a clear cut way to define knowledge. So, in response, we argue that justification isn't always clear or universally agreed upon, which weakens its role in defining knowledge of JTB. Therefore, the distinction between justified and unjustified beliefs can't always be as clear as JTB assumes. So if you don't have any rebuttals for that, I would just like to add that different cultures and individuals have different beliefs about what is true. So just like what I said earlier, one group may see a universal truth, but some other group might not accept it. So truth is not fixed or objective. So assuming that it is not um, objective or absolute, um, JTB can serve as a universal definition of knowledge. So it is not a strong or universal way, rather, to define knowledge.
Okay, so for our rebuttal to the last statements that you said, JTB can still define knowledge effectively even if knowledge evolves over time. Scientific facts, for example, change as we learn more, but each accepted fact still meets the JTB's criteria in its context, showing JTB's flexibility rather than invalidating it. While some knowledge may involve luck or coincidence, like in your case, like at your cases, these are exceptions that reveal areas where JTB can be refined, rather than disproving its overall usefulness. Finally, the potential for manipulation doesn't discredit JTB. Any framework can be misused, and issues with manipulation reflect ethical concerns rather than flaws in the definition itself.
Because if JTB is really as reliable as what you have mentioned, even being updated and augmented to fit certain situations, then why don't we use it for science? Like, if it's so accurate, then why don't we measure it? Why don't we use it as a basis for measurement in certain conditions? Like, why do we still need scientific methods to prove other hypotheses and beliefs? While yes, it is a foundation, there are still gaps and room for error. We are making a point that JTB cannot always be true, and only justifying your belief will never make it 100% true.
For the answer of your rebuttal, the scientific method is ingrained with the GTB. It needs its hypothesis to be believed. You need to believe something or make an assumption of something, and need to be proven it to truly believe it or to know that it's actually factually true in the real world. So it is used. So JTB is used in the real world as an example is yes a scientific method, but it's not the direct definition, but it's still like the background of the use of scientific method.
No, because you are arguing if JTB is a good definition for knowledge. And if it's not universally applicable to every cases, then it is not a good definition. Any definition should be acceptable in all cases.
Any definition is flawed in some way or another. It's impossible to have a perfectly definition that is like the right correct definition for every course or every to define something as large as knowledge. But still, JTB can still be used as a foundation, which makes it a good definition or a starting point at least. It's not perfect, but it's a good definition of knowledge.
Yes, it is not perfect, but the point is there are many rising issues around JTB. It's acceptable if there is only one or two issues regarding it. Pero the fact that there are so many issues surrounding JTB means that it is not a good definition of knowledge. And the fact that many philosophers led to explore alternative theories to fill its gaps, and with Gettier cases being the main argument against JTB, it really shows that JTB is not a good definition for knowledge because it is insufficient. And this insufficiency pushes us to reconsider what really constitutes knowledge.
Um, it's the reason that it's insufficient because it is applied in the real world. Nothing in the real world is certain or 100% correct. That's why it can form what it needs to do in the real world for what we really know, or it's only as good as what we know in how we use it. Or for example, if the evidence is only as good as it is, the knowledge that can we conclude from it is only as good as the evidence. It's not the problem of JTB, it's the problem of having an impossible correct, an impossible 100% true evidence for something.
Then if it's a
Additionally,
good definition for knowledge, then how can you explain Gettier cases, tacit knowledge, um, our senses, like how our senses fail us, and many other theories such as reliabilitism and contextual epistemology. Because if you cannot um, rebut about Gettier cases getting in the way of JTB, then how can you say that JTB is even a good definition of knowledge if you can't defend it?
Yeah, it's true that there are some well-known challenges to JTB, like the get your problems. However, these challenges don't mean JTB isn't a good or useful definition of knowledge. They actually underscore the JTB strength and its adaptability, like what I said. In philosophy, frameworks like JTB are often refined and debated precisely because they are foundational. It's used as a foundation, sparking ongoing exploration into the nature of knowledge. While there are edge cases that JTB doesn't fully address, these don't negate its value. Instead, they show that JTB is a living framework, one that can be refined as we learn more, just as scientific theories evolve with new discoveries but still remain useful. JTB remains a practical basis for distinguishing knowledge from mere belief across diverse areas like science, law, and everyday reasoning. Yes, JTB isn't a perfect definition, but it's a good starting ground for other definitions. That's why we believe that JTB is a good definition for knowledge, even if it's not perfect.
Any questions for the opposing side?
So I would just like to present a scenario before. Like this happened in the real world because what are you insinuating is because JTB is a good definition because it happens in the real world. So for before, people believed that the earth was the center of the universe, mainly because it appeared that the sun and stars revolve around the earth. This belief was justified by observations and religious teachings at the time. So the heliocentric theory that the earth orbits the sun later replaced geocentrism. This developed telescopes and further observation by scientists like Copernicus, Galileo, and many, many more. So, although this belief in geocentrism was once justified by the best available evidence and was widely believed, it was later shown to be false. So, if JTB is indeed true, then that knowledge of um, Earth was the center of the universe should just be knowledge and it shouldn't be disproved of later on if JTB is actually true. So my point is justification can vary from time to time also. And from what I've said earlier, um, it is also it also varies about how great the scenario or the consequences of a certain scenario will predict or will be impacted rather.
For my answer, okay, sabihin ka ba? Okay.
So
For my
yeah,
answer, ay,
clarification lang.
ikaw muna.
My question is if geocentrism was justified, it is considered knowledge with the conditions of JTB, then why is later on it was accepted to be false? So kung knowledge talaga siya, then it shouldn't be disproved of later on because it is a knowledge by the
For
conditions
your,
of it.
pwede na?
Yes pa.
For your geocentrism, okay, so geocentrism is still knowledge today. It's not used as heliocentrism, but it's still knowledge. There is math that is made that you can search it up that looks like you can see the orbits of different planets. It looks compared to heliocentrism, it looks more complicated and more of a mess. Compared to heliocentrism, geocentrism is used for tradition that believes that the Earth is the center of the universe. That's why it's used. But it's more on the tradition itself rather than its usability. First off, geocentrism is harder to calculate its orbits because the Earth in the first place is not the center. You can see that the moon is the only thing that's circular, and the difference between the orbits of the other planets or celestial bodies is more hard. It's harder to know. That's why we switch over from geocentrism to heliocentrism because we now know that heliocentrism is more convenient to use and more accessible and more applicable to today's usage. But geocentrism is still knowledge, not the best knowledge, but it's still knowledge. It's not used, and it's probably never gonna be used as much as before, but it's still knowledge that JDB has used. It is true. It not most of the false things about geocentrism is its tradition or like the religious ideas behind it, but the science itself or the mathematics behind the geocentrism or the orbits itself is based on mathematical and scientific facts. But overall, um, JTB is still important because, as you said, even if geocentrism is used before and has been for a long time, we still use heliocentrism because we know that heliocentrism is more applicable to current or easier at least easier to mold or at least put into our ideas. But and
No, because
still
geocentrism was, or, sige, sige. Go
um
lang.
J, um sige. So that's why JTB is only as good as its current knowledge or current evidence for something, and it's not limited by the ideas of the past or the past.
You said that geocentrism was still acceptable, but not to burst your bubble, but it is actually later shown to be false. So that's what my point is, because geocentrism was once believed to be true and considered knowledge because it conformed to the conditions of JTB. But later on, it was later shown to be false. So how would that be a still knowledge if it's false? Can you have false knowledge?
I mean that geocentrism as the orbital, you can like search it up. Just the belief that geocentrism, the belief itself, not the scientific parts of it, that the Earth is the center of the universe is 100% false. I believe it, but the mathematics behind it to prove how the geocentrism works is still true. You can see that the orbit is harder to recognize compared to the heliocentric model, which is now 100% true. But the geocentrism model is still not used because of its not very hindi siya grounded sa totoong buhay. So yon, it's still used. I mean, it's not used the geocentrism. It's like the idea itself that the Earth is the center of the universe is false, but the mathematics behind it on how they calculate the orbit around the Earth is still true. It's just not as applicable today as that the orbit is not as applicable as today since it doesn't um it, it's it's not used.
Okay, conclusion na po. So po, conclusion na po.
Conclusion po ata yun ng proposition, guys.
Okay, so our conclusion is that if something we believe turns out to be false, it wasn't knowledge in the first place, and that's the beauty of JTB. It ensures that we only count true beliefs as knowledge.
Additionally, while there are challenges to the justified true belief framework, such as the great get-here problems, the rise of alternative epistemological theories like reliabilism, reliabilism, and even historical shifts like the transition from geocentrism to heliocentrism, these issues do not undermine the value of JTB as a definition of knowledge. Rather, they highlight the complexity of knowledge and the need for continued exploration and refinement. JTB provides a solid foundation for understanding knowledge by emphasizing three key components: belief, truth, and justification. Although the details of justification may evolve as we acquire the new information or refine our methods, the core principle of JTB remain relevant. Just because the knowledge changes or adapts over time doesn't mean our criteria for knowledge should be discarded. It simply means that we update and improve our understanding as we gain new insights. Ultimately, JTB's enduring value lies in its ability to guide us in distinguishing between what we believe and what we know, ensuring that knowledge is not just true, but also justified. While philosophical inquiry may refine this model further, JTB continues to serve as a powerful and adaptable framework for understanding and assessing knowledge in a variety of contexts.
Tanong po sa conclusion.
That's all.
So in conclusion, the JTB theory, while historically significant, it fails to provide a reliable and universal definition of knowledge. One major flaw is the concept of justification that I said from the introduction, which does not guarantee that a belief is actually true. Justification is about having reasons or support for believing something, but those reasons can be wrong, outdated, or incomplete. And without concrete evidence that directly confirms the truth of a belief, justification alone cannot ensure that a belief is genuinely knowledge. Moreover, JTB's reliance on truth as an absolute objective standard is problematic because different cultures, perspective, and context have varying ideas of what counts as truth. What one group believes to be true might not be recognized as such by another, showing that truth is not always fixed or universal. And this is cultural relativity. And additionally, JTB fails to count for situations where knowledge is based on luck, like lucky guesses, tacit knowledge, and get your problems. So this also raises the question whether JTB is a good definition for knowledge. And finally, the examples from the history of science that I presented earlier, where past theories were justified and widely believed, but later disproven, demonstrate the limits of JTB. As science and human understanding evolved, beliefs once considered justified can be proven false, reinforcing the idea that justification and truth alone are not enough to define knowledge. And all these issues that while JTB may offer a starting point for understanding knowledge, it is incomplete. So the theory needs to be refined or replaced by alternative frameworks, reason why it is not a good definition for knowledge, to better capture the complexity of what it truly means to know something. Because any good definition should apply to all relevant cases, not just some of them. If a definition only works in a certain situations but fail in others, it isn't a complete or reliable definition. Therefore, since it doesn't cover all situations, JTB is not a good definition of knowledge. It is a flawed system or framework that is used by many for knowledge.
Moreover, modern theories of knowledge such as reliabilism and virgin epistemology emphasizes that knowledge demands an additional layer of connection between belief and truth, or one that involves either external factors like reliability of the belief formation process or internal virtues. These theories suggest that GTB provides at best an incomplete view of knowledge. It neglects aspects of how a belief is formed and maintained over time in ways that exclude mere coincidence or accidental correctness. In light of this consideration, it becomes clear that GTB is not a sufficient or complete account of knowledge. Knowledge demands more than justified through belief. It requires conditions that ensures genuine, non-coincidental link between our beliefs and reality. Thus, while GTB may highlight useful aspects of belief information, it cannot be considered as a very basis or essence of knowledge.
In conclusion, JTB is not a good definition for knowledge because it undermines many relevant cases and it's not universally acceptable, knowing that there are many justification and truths that can vary from person to person. So I believe that is all for our conclusion po.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, Van. Tanggal na po yung share screen. Okay, let us first give them a round of applause. Okay, mamaya na magsabi na MVP, wala pa. Okay, since we have a little time, just a brief comment na lang. As a whole na siguro. Okay, so please limit yung long dead air, especially sa rebuttal. And then yung time management. And then, napapansin ko pa rin yung mahaba pa rin yung build-up for cross-examination. Okay, mahaba yung explanation and then ang sasabihin lang nung opposing team ay, can you repeat your question? Then ulitin mo ulit yung mahabang build-up, sayang yung oras. Okay, so again, please make sure lang na kaunti lang yung build-up, kung ano lang yung gusto mong pinakasasabihin, yun lang. And then, ask the question. Okay, so very good din yung ideas na sinasama nyo yung mga philosophers, okay, sa inyong arguments. But pagdating doon sa rebuttals, medyo very few yung na-mention na argument with the opposing team. Somehow, yung ating rebuttal ay nagmukhang continuation ng opening statement. And then, yung accuracy pagdating sa cross-examination, yung accuracy naman, no, may napansin tayong inaccurate na argument, yung sa scientific method and JTB. I believe si Pransen ata yung nagbanggit nun, tapos na correct naman ni Matthew. Okay, please mag-ingat sa mga ating sasabihin kasi nga, pwede yang magamit hindi naman ni Matthew, no, ng mga kalaban ninyo. Okay, overall, okay naman yung time management sa opening. Very good yan. Siguro sa mga bandang dulo na lang. Okay, so yun lang. Okay, so I would like to ask the audience. So who do you think is more kapanipaniwala? Okay, if you believe the proposition had won the debate, please raise your hand. Wala nagtas ng kamay, no? Ayan. Si Angelo. Si Angelo lang. Okay, so ayan. Nahiya lang pala sila, Adrian. Okay. Okay, thank you. Students, if you believe that the opposition team won the debate, please raise your hand. Okay, I believe the majority had already spoken. So, ang nanalo for today's debate ay ang opposition team. Okay, very good. And then lastly, sino kaya ang MVP for today? Sige nga, pakilagay po sa comment. Matthew and Red. O, silang dalawa yung nagsasagutan sa cross-exam. Naalala ko yung part na nag-ask si Matthew kung pwede na raw ba siyang magsagot. Ayan. Okay, bilangin natin no, kung sino yung mas lamang. Red, all caps. Gabriel D. Loanson. Okay, so the majority have spoken for today's MVP. Let us give her a round of applause. Okay, congratulations to Francine Red. Okay, pakibigyan siya ng recognition. Clap natin siya. So we expect now Miss Francen sa topic number 10 kasama ka doon sa magde-debate. Okay? So for lastly, extended na tayo by 1 minute. Kuha na lang tayo ng picture. Paki-open yung camera. Pula. Sa pala sa puti. Yan. Hand gesture. Ang kailangan na anong ano natin ngayon? Anong team natin? Suggest kayo ng pose. Ano, dali. Suggest kayo ng posing. Wala pa ako nakikita. Ganun daw. Ayan, ganun na lang, ganun na lang. Sige. Na lang, Van. Kuha na lang ng screenshot. Gusto yata ng grade na 2 kaya ganun.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Next slide po. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next slide po. 1, 2, 3. Okay, last slide po. Okay, di na po nagpapakita itong. Yun lang po.
Okay, thank you so much guys. I'll see you next week. Tignan natin no, kung kayo po yung may excuse or hindi. Maria Tere, paki-update na lang
Thank
ako.
you po.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye po.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.